What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for yet another Tottenham update. A quick reminder that we are on podcasting platforms, Acast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts still to come, Google Podcasts there, as well as our written content on WeAreTottenhamTV.com, where you get your latest Tottenham articles. But let's get straight into the Tottenham update, talking about that Frankie de Jong report that we heard about yesterday. Paul O'Keefe has come and shattered our dreams and poured cold water all over it and says reports that Tottenham have made a big up for Frankie de Jong are inaccurate.
Shock horror. Yeah, unbelievable news. Look, it was always going to be a tall order. We looked at the financials. It doesn't seem to be a viable option. In terms of the transfer fee, I don't think that's a massive hurdle, but given his massive wages, apparently Barca are trying to get him to sign a new contract to actually lower his wages as well. So even they're struggling to pay it. We know that. I don't see Tottenham breaking their wage structure to bring in Frankie de Jong. So I think any kind of rumours that we've mooted for a move for him are very obviously going to be wide of the mark at this stage. And I think it's one in the summer that there's going to have to be a bit of give and take from both sides if this deal is going to get done. And we know Tottenham don't like to spend more than they want to. So whether that is a stumbling block is probably going to be the case.
Yeah, look, I said it yesterday. I always felt like this deal was extremely hard to do. Didn't really believe it at the time. Even less so now after Paul O'Keefe said it. And I don't really think anything will happen in the summer either. So I think we can put that one to bed, to be honest. But let's move on talking about another another centre-back, but it is a centre-back that we have been linked with in the past, and he goes by the name of Mourat of Benfica, as Record Portugal say that Tottenham are leading the competition to sign Benfica's defender Mourat. The club have been following the player for a long period, so yet another defender being linked with Spurs.
Yeah, another left-sided centre-back, which I'm pretty sure the last 5 defenders we've covered about rumours have all been left-sided centre-backs. So clearly, they've also been young as well, young left-sided centre-backs. So I think that is clearly a position that we're focusing on at the moment. He's very aggressive. He's a bit like Romero on the left-hand side, Morato. So it'll be interesting. I think obviously Benfica do like to get big fees for their players, don't they? They're very used to selling players for massive profits, which they've done in the past. They do usually look to sell Benfica. That's kind of part of their model. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do make him available, but he is probably going to be very, very pricey. Yeah,
absolutely. But look, it does seem like we are in the market for a centre-back, which is surprising and it's not surprising. You're hearing all the glowing reports of Ashley Phillips at the moment at Plymouth in the Championship. And maybe he is too young to come into the first team and actually make a difference next year. He is only 18 years of age, so maybe it is one more year of loan. But then again, if you do sign a young centre-back, where does he get a look in then? Even in future years?
It's going to be difficult for him, especially because Van de Ven is 22.
They're all young, aren't they? Yeah.
Romero is going to be the senior centre-back at 25. So unless one of them leaves, it's going to be very difficult for someone like Phillips in the future to get a look in. But then again, he's still only 18. He's a teenager. So when are we going to be looking to bring him in? Is it next year, 2 years, or is it in 4 or 5 years or something? I don't know. Maybe that's too far, but it's a balancing act. They got to decide when they feel like he's going to get his opportunity.
Yeah, you're looking at what he's doing in the Championship, though, at 18 years of age. People saying he's well beyond his years. I'm seeing these reports from these Plymouth fans saying they're blown away by what he's showing so far in the Championship. And that 18, surely you get fast-tracked a bit earlier then, next year maybe a Premier League loan if he's doing so well in the Championship, and then surely he's part of the first team after that. It can't be too far away.
I would imagine so. I mean, still very young. Even 20 for a centre-back is young, but we've seen young centre-backs at the moment breaking through. As you've seen, look at all these centre-backs that we're linked with who are also young. So you would think how he's performing at the moment, he's going to start getting opportunities at higher levels sooner rather than later. I think in another time period, maybe he does start getting an opportunity in the first team next season, but with the centre-backs that we have, maybe it's smarter to just send him on loan.
Let's talk about another potential signing for Tottenham Hotspur. Another one for the youth, and he goes by the name of Boris Mamza of Hertha Berlin. As Bild are reporting that Tottenham are taking steps to try and sign Hertha Berlin midfield starlet Boris Mamza. Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen, and other top clubs also tracking the player. He's already visited Spurs back in December and was even brought to their home match against Bournemouth as part of an attempt to convince the player that Spurs are the right destination for him. So again, we're looking at the best up-and-coming talent from around Europe.
Yeah, which is absolutely fantastic. Obviously, look, given this guy's 16, I don't expect him to be part of the first team anytime soon, but it's so exciting when you look at the young talent, especially midfield as well, coming through. If this guy signs, clearly we've been tracking him for a while. He's been tracked by a lot of the top clubs, so he must be a big talent. You've got Bergvall, you got Devine, who got an assist yesterday for Plymouth. He's doing really, really well as well. So that midfield, we've got a very young midfield already. Well, a few young midfielders, but we're already looking at the next generation for our midfield as well. So look, I can't say I've seen too much of Hoffenheim's youth or
Hertha Berlin.
Hertha Berlin, sorry, I can't say I've seen their youth games.
What,
so
you don't watch their under 16s week in, week out?
Not regularly. Maybe I'll partake occasionally, but. So
you're missing out, mate.
Yeah, of course. So I'm sure you can tell me how good he's been week in, week out, but it's very promising for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just follows on that kind of theme, isn't it? That Spurs just keep going for those young talents from around Europe, which is very promising. Let's talk about Timo Werner now, as Bild are reporting that RB Leipzig do expect Tottenham to activate the Timo Werner clause on a permanent basis at the end of the season. I mean, they can expect all they want, to be honest, but it obviously all holds in Daniel Levy and Tottenham's hands. I think it's way too early to talk about this, though.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if they've made a decision at this point, given how many games he played. 5 games?
Yeah, even that, yeah. 4 or 5.
I'd be very surprised at that stage, given what he's shown. Not to say he's been bad. I've actually been happy with the impact he's made, considering he's only going to be here on short term. He was here to cover Sonny while he was away and just to fill in on that left-hand side in the short term. And considering all of that and how woefully he's been out of form and how much football he's played for Leipzig, I'm actually been pleasantly surprised and fairly pleased with the impact and game and performance he's given. I'm not kind of coming in and saying he's blown me away and he's been world-class or anything like that. I do think it's pretty much been the Werner we've expected to see, like a player who has showed flashes of quality, makes good runs, gets in good positions, but does have a bit of a lack of quality and product, although he has got 2 or 3 assists in his start so far. I wouldn't completely rule it out, given the price. 17 million is very, very cheap. So if he continues to, get goals and assists and has a really good impact from now to the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if we do it. But I don't want to be sitting here in the summer and Werner being our star winger signing, and then we don't sign anyone else in the forward line. If we've allocated a high amount of our budget for a winger, which is implied with a lot of these players on our winger list, like Neto and Rafinha and whatever, then even if we do sign Werner, we need another one of those as well. We can't just say Werner's are signing on the wing and then that's our forward line done. That wouldn't be good enough. I think on an ideal world, we go for like a Neto, Rafinha or a high budget one, and then you go for like another winger who's probably younger, maybe between 18 and 21 and has high potential and maybe is like ready to break out, like a Nusa if he was fit and something like that. But if we decide to not do that and go for Werner instead because he's cheaper and he can make an impact, and we go for a high budget one, that's also okay. I'm not too unhappy about that. I just want to make sure that if we sign Werner, he isn't our main forward signing in the summer.
Yeah, I agree with that, saying, Werner shouldn't be our main target and our main forward signing in the summer. But in terms of making it permanent, I just feel like it's way too early to tell. I mean, signs have been okay. He's done everything really good outside the final touches. And when he's asked to shoot or when he's asked to put in a cross in the box, it has been fairly poor, to be honest, quite consistently. So he's got a couple of assists. He's doing okay in a Spurs shirt, but nothing tells me as of yet that we should be making this permanent, to be honest.
If I had to make the decision tomorrow, I would say no.
Yeah, exactly.
But I still think he's shown enough to not completely rule it out.
No, yeah. Look, he's got time. He's got 14, 15 games to prove himself. But is the game time going to be limited now to maybe sub appearances with Sonny coming back as well? So we'll have to wait and see how it all progresses.
Might be a good super sub though.
Yeah, absolutely. With that pace against tiring legs, we've seen what kind of Brennan Johnson can do off the bench, getting goals off the bench. So why can't Timo Werner do the same?
I agree.
Let's talk about potential injuries coming into the weekend. Destiny Udogie and Pedro Porro. Destiny Udogie did not take part in today's open training session at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The Spurs left-back was withdrawn in the second half at the win against Brighton in the weekend. No Pedro Porro was seen in the training session either alongside Udogie, but Clive Allen did say on the YouTube stream that Pedro Porro was in earlier, so hopefully it's nothing too bad. Paul O'Keefe says that Pedro Porro has had a muscular injury that's being assessed, and Destiny Udogie has not trained fully this week whilst they investigate his issue. Both will be assessed prior to the weekend's fixture at Wolves, so quite worrying, to be honest, going into this weekend.
So annoying. Just as we were getting our full team back, and then two very vital players who play at fullback have now...
We can't have nice things at Tottenham.
We can't have a full-strength team. So let's hope it's not too bad. I'm going to be honest. I do think Udogie and Porro have been looking a bit tired over the last few weeks, to be honest. I don't think they've been at their very best.
I think more Porro, to be fair, than Udogie.
I think they've both looked a bit fatigued. And obviously, Udogie went off with cramp, didn't he, in the last game? And obviously, that's affected him during the week because he hasn't been able to train. I think as well, I agree, Porro's is also just looked like he's suffering with like a lack of rest. Because he's played every minute of every game pretty much, Porro. So it's understandable. So if they do have to come out for a week or two, that is just going to be necessary because that's why you need a squad, because you need to be able to take these kind of players out and not rely on them week in, week out for every single minute of every game, which we've had to recently. Now the question is, what do we do? Is it just as simple as, do we put Emerson and Davis in, which is obviously the obvious choice because they're the backup fullbacks? Some people suggesting, do you go to a back three maybe and put Dragusin in, make it a back three, and then have that kind of how we like to play back three is not with wing backs. It's like a 3-2. It's like a 3-2-4-1 kind of formation. So you got wingers, but you got two midfielders and three centre backs to kind of cover the space at the back. So could that be the direction we go in? Some people are suggesting Dragusin goes to right back and Davis comes left back and still no Emerson. I think our logic suggests and previous selection suggests he goes to Emerson, but I don't think he hasn't had to make this decision since Dragusin has been part of the club. So I wonder what he does. There's
a few different variables here. I think if Pedro Porro is out for the weekend, I do think Emerson comes straight in, to be honest, as well as, Ange always talks about how good he is around the place, model professional. He's always stepped in when Pedro Porro has gone off, or in the first game as well. Emerson started ahead of Pedro Porro, but Porro started every single game since then, so it's hard to really assess. But at left back, we did hear when Van de Ven was coming into the club, he can play left back as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see Dragusin and Romero in the centre back positions and then moving Van de Ven over at left back. But then again, Ben Davis is back fit now as well. So I don't want to see it three at the back, to be honest. I think I want to see, if it was up to me, I think I'd put Van de Ven left back and put Dragusin and Romero at centre back positions.
I like that idea as well. The only question is, obviously, you're breaking up the partnership with Van de Ven and Romero, and then do you have that sweeping at the back, which obviously Van de Ven provides? But maybe it can be a bit of a hybrid kind of. It turns into a back three off the ball kind of thing with Van de Ven there at left back. Because do I want Van de Ven going forward and inverting, or do I want him near the back line covering? It's a question that Ange needs to answer going into the weekend. But it's not. I don't think it's like a. I'm obviously worried because Udogie and Porro have been so good, but I'm not going to weekend thinking, "Oh, how are we going to win now against Wolves?" I'm still confident, even if those two aren't going to make it, we can still get a positive result.
I guess the good thing as well coming into it is that after this weekend, we've got 2 weeks rest, with the next week's game being postponed because Chelsea are in a cup final. So it hopefully is only going to be one game with them, the whole squad having that 2 weeks much needed rest. So I guess it's not the end of the world. Just one game. Let's finish off talking about this Jarden partnership. As Ali Gold says that Jarden's hierarchy held a meeting with the club's members on Monday. There it was mentioned that Tottenham and Jarden want to set up a partnership going forward, and the two clubs will meet in the next few weeks to formalise that. During the members' meeting, it was suggested that the partnership could result in an exchange of academy players, also with the potential of Spurs players heading to Jarden in the future. Jarden sporting director Bosse Anderson claims that they will host talks with Tottenham over hosting a pre-season friendly, and then we got quotes as well. And he says it is clear that this wouldn't have happened if Lucas hadn't have gone there. Both clubs have a common ambition to fulfill it and try and plan it. It's not very common for English teams to come to Stockholm. There is a mutual respect for that. Tottenham know that there's a lot of interest in Sweden and Scandinavia, so they are completely on board with the idea. We have an ambition that Tottenham will come here and play Jarden. It's hard to get the dates together, but our ambition is that we'll go over to Tottenham and discuss the matter, but both clubs have the ambition to implement it. You shouldn't expect it to happen this summer, but it will happen over the next few years.
Interesting.
So a bit of a partnership there with Jarden.
Special relationship, maybe you can put it that way. I mean, we might have a bit of PTSD from our last special relationship we had with a certain Real Madrid, which we ended up losing our best player and getting absolutely nothing in return, basically.
Not even a friendly we got.
Exactly. I don't know if Jarden are going to be able to take some of our best players in that kind of relationship, but given that their reputation for developing young players, I think having a partnership with them is only positive. Obviously, Scott Munn has a experience with building these kind of relationships with other clubs, like he did with the City group, with Man City and other clubs that they built a relationship with. So it's very, very positive. Maybe going forward in the future, it can be very, very beneficial to us. I wouldn't be surprised maybe some of our youngsters go over to Jarden on loan deals to build some experience as well. So I think it's really positive. Yeah,
and on top of Scott Munn as well, Johan Lange has a good relationship with that league, good relationship with that club, with the hierarchy of that club. So he'll know full well, the inner workings of these kind of clubs and what they can produce and how they can aid the development of the young talent at Spurs. I don't imagine it'll be like the under 21 guys, but I think maybe a level lower than that, maybe like the under 18 guys to go over there.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait. It depends what player, what level they're at and stuff like that. If there's an under 21 player who's looking good, but he's struggling to get any sort of like championship loan or something, maybe a Swedish league loan might be better than like going to like League 1 or 2. I don't know.
Yeah, we have seen a player of ours go over to the Swedish league before, isn't it? Alfie Whiteman went over at some point. But look, we'll have to see how this one develops. But it'll be interesting to see a Spurs friendly out in Sweden as well, with the growing Scandinavian market, as the boss, what's his name, Bosse Anderson likes to call it. So we'll see how it works out. But I like these kind of deals. It grows our reputation around the different areas of Europe as well. So that is your Tottenham update for today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.